Hello and welcome to Everyday Oral Surgery. This is your host, Dr. Grant Stucki. I am an oral and maxillofacial surgeon practicing in Denver, Colorado. The goal of this podcast is to connect, learn, and inspire. In this podcast, you'll be hearing from OMS surgeons all over the globe discussing ways to improve the practice of oral and maxillofacial surgery. Most information shared in this podcast will be based on personal experience and opinions, so please supplement what you learn here with approved research studies. Without further ado, please enjoy today's episode. Welcome everyone back to another episode. Today I'm with Dr. Roger Levin, CEO of the Levin Group. Roger, thank you for joining us for another episode.
Grant, I love this because you are helping so many people, and our topic today is really going to help people, young surgeons who are opening a startup. And I know you reach a lot of young surgeons, and I can't tell you how much they appreciate all of your podcasts when I talk to them. So you're making a real difference in our dental community.
Yeah, I think this is a great topic. I have lots of listeners contact me on a monthly basis, asking me questions about, where to start up, how to start up. Do I know people I could put them in touch with? And we've had a few individuals share their startup stories, but I think it'd be good from a marketing standpoint to talk to you about, how do you break into a market, especially a competitive one, where there's already a lot of surgeons and specialists, and, you want to try to get a foothold there and make a name for your practice. So where would you start us off on that topic?
Well, the answer is very clear to me. There are a lot of things we could talk about. We could talk about marketing. We could talk about management. We could talk about office managers. We could talk about financing. But the reality is it's marketing. Because if you don't get referrals, then this hard work you're doing to start up a practice is going to take much longer. Not everyone automatically does well. Oral surgery has become more competitive. I just lectured for a 450 doctor DSO, all surgeons, 2 weeks ago at their annual meeting for the morning. And, this is a group that's trying to compete aggressively with referral marketing, social media marketing. They're out there, and there are others. So if you're going to open a startup, here's the good news. You can do really well. I'm thinking about a client right now that I know personally, end of year one, doing 1.5 million. So it can be done. He didn't particularly know what he was doing. He was excited, but he understood, get out there and generate referrals. And he's done it very, very well with some bumps along the way. So I make the statement that oral surgeons live and die by referrals. Even though we want to do surgery and we want to do treatment planning and we want to be great clinicians, if you don't have, if you don't have referrals, then you just don't build a practice. So you've got to get the referrals, or they're never going to get a chance to experience the excellence of your clinical skill.
So how do you do that when you're a brand new guy and there's these guys who've been sitting there for years and have captured all these great referrals?
Okay, so let me tell you, let's start with what you don't do. If you call me at Levin Group or our VP of Consulting and say, hey, I want to be in your marketing program and you're a startup, we're going to say you need to be in a startup program. You're not ready for the marketing program because you don't have relationships in place. And if you said, hey, I want your management program, and we've done that with startups, but whenever I'm making a choice, I always recommend marketing first because you don't have that much staff to manage. You have staff, but when you're starting up, you better be entrepreneurial, energetic. You're the chief cook and bottle washer. You will be doing things you won't be doing 3 to 5 years later, but you've got to be ready to really jump in there and make things happen. You don't need great management day one because you got plenty of open appointments and plenty of time to fill things in. And the bottom line is a startup referral marketing program, and I've been studying these for many, many years, is different. So the first thing I always ask a young surgeon when they call me, and I only ask this to make a point because I always know the answer, is, do you have a marketing plan? And the answer is generally no. They might be 9 months out, 6 months out, 3 months out. The first step is you start 3 months before you open. That's the first step. So when people call me at 9 months and say, hey, I want to sign up for the marketing program, we always say to them, we'll be glad to hold your exclusive territory, but there's no point in starting and paying 9 months ahead or 6 months ahead. It's about 3 months ahead, sometimes 4, that you have to begin to have a marketing plan. The first step is what we call a branding package. What is your name going to be? What is your logo going to be? What is your tagline going to be? What materials are you going to have? Are you going to be all online website? We're not seeing business cards the way we used to. We're not seeing brochures the way we used to. So I do like online. It's less expensive, it's easier, and you can change it much faster. So you start with a branding package. And branding really is a science. You ask questions like, well, what do I want to be known for? Is my big message customer service, advanced clinical? Do I want to be known as a family type of office, meaning we will do lots of third molars and implants? Do I want to be mainly implants? We really try to look at what this OMS practice is going to look like as we put the brand together. So we build around that brand, because that brand comes then with a brand message, which is when you start meeting with referring doctors. And I'll go into a lot of depth today. You want to be communicating that brand to your referring doctors.
Got it. Okay. This may be off the topic a little bit, but one question is, you mentioned how you have to be the guy who's doing everything for marketing and super excited. Do you see startups only working with like brand new recent grads who have all this motivation because they got debt, or do you do this with middle-aged surgeons as well?
Well, I can give you a kind of a longer answer. Lots of not new grads. There are very few new grads opening practices from scratch. We don't get a lot of calls from residents saying, I'm going to open when I get out. Typically, category one, in no order, would be associates that don't want to stay with the practice they're in. They don't want to do the partnership track. They think it takes too long. They think they can do better on their own. Sometimes they want to stay in the area. Sometimes they want to relocate. Sometimes their spouses want them to relocate. It's a big factor. So typically, 2, 3, 4 years as an associate and deciding they're going to open on their own. The second category is surgeons in a DSO. And we do see them sometimes leaving to come back out of DSO and open their own practice. A third category that you wouldn't think of is military. Whenever I'm lecturing to surgeons and I look out and I see, the surgeon's about 35, 37 years of age, maybe 40, and they're in a uniform, I know they're coming up to their 20 years at that point. It might be 45, and they realize, okay, that was a lot of fun, but I need to make money now. I'm going into private practice. Typically, military people are more likely to buy a practice than open, but it's still a startup in that sense. So that's what we see a lot of. We see more younger surgeons doing it. Because typically a surgeon who's been an associate in 2 or 3 different offices and now they're early 40s doesn't run out and open their own practice. It's risky in their minds. So you see a lot of young surgeons and then others who are in situations that have gone well, but now they're ready for their own.
Got it. Okay. Okay. So going back to the branding, I assume you talk with your surgeon about what is it you want to focus on, but how do they know? I mean, if that's your run-of-the-mill surgeon who's been trained in everything, how do they know where they really should find their niche?
Okay, so what we recommend, because with younger surgeons and startups, we try to have lower expenses. Grant, if you wanted to add to your marketing program, you can put on a $10,000 seminar. You can put on a all-day event for the families. You could spend some money. These folks, they really don't have enough, and we try to be very judicious. So we focus heavily for the startup on relationship building with referring doctors, a lot of one-to-one activity where your expenses are food, restaurants, gifts, things along those lines. And by the way, anybody listening that is thinking, well, that doesn't sound very sophisticated, it might not, but what works, works. We're doing this every day. We know these things work. We see the growth in practices, and don't discount things that just sound basic and simple, because a lot of relationships are based on basic and simple. So the first thing you do is you create a marketing plan. And I'll go through a preliminary set of ideas for you. First, be aware you might not open on time. Be careful. Okay. One of the expressions I love is everything in life is more expensive and takes longer than you thought it would be. Very true with practices. You run into bumps. We had one young doctor who lost 9 months just trying to get a permit in Southern California. I mean, it was unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable. No reason that there should have been a delay, just bureaucracy. So don't plan, and we see this mistake all the time, and I love to learn from mistakes. Don't plan a grand opening celebration for when you think you're opening for two reasons. One, you might not open. You got this great celebration planned and people been invited and you're not opening. And two, what we've learned is nobody's coming. They don't know you. They don't care about you. You're the next surgeon who arrived, and you might think everybody's waiting for you, but they don't. So you have to go out there and start to build a referral base and relationships. We typically don't have a open house. We no longer call it a grand opening for at least 6 months until after you open. You're established, you've worked out the kinks, you've got some team members, and you're starting to build relationships with people that will come to your open house. I've seen so many early startup grand openings and open houses bomb. A lot of great food and 3 people show up. It's just not, and 2 of them are staff members, by the way. So you want to be very careful about that. Now, your first step is to create a list of all the referring doctors in the area. Well, what does area mean? Area in one place could be 5 miles, in another place it could be 25 miles. We actually have a surgeon who draws from 250 miles. Very rural area in the Dakotas, and people drive pretty far when they need to go there. By the way, from a management standpoint, I'll just throw in this anecdote. We don't do a consult and then treatment. If they're coming for third molars, we tell them if everything looks fine, they're coming out that day. We don't make them run back and forth. And then we check in on them, by phone or teledental. So make a list of all the referrals. Well, how do you do that? Well, Google is your friend. Google can find all the referral sources in your area very nicely. You get an Excel spreadsheet, you lay it all out, and then you lay it out in patterns. Not, because Google doesn't always say, oh, these doctors are near each other. One of the most inefficient things we see is when you're trying to do marketing, let's say you're taking a day and you're going to visit, 10 or 12 offices and you're all over the place. Well, you're not going to get to 12 offices, or you're going to have a very long day. So we even teach our clients, we have an app even for delivery routes, we call them, and how to batch the areas that you're going into. So Google will help you identify all, and I mean all, don't prejudge all the doctors in your area. When you first start out, you're throwing out a giant net and you're just beginning to see not who you're even going to catch, who you can get in front of in any way, shape, or form to start building relationships. And when you get in front of them, the next thing you need is scripting. You've got a brand. What do you want to tell them? If it were me, I would tell them that anytime you contact our office, you never have a problem. We will take over. This is what general dentists love to hear. And by the way, about 98% of the referrals come from general dentists. With this DSO I was with, they do a lot of social media marketing. It's still 95% of the referrals coming from referring doctors. So you might be able to get some DTC, direct to consumer marketing going, make it effective. When you're first starting out, your big bang for the buck are referring doctors. 1A, top referring doctor, can send you $250,000 a year in referrals, $250,000. So maybe you'll have a practice of 7 or 8 A's at high level. You might have 20 solid A's at a lower level, but those A's are worth their weight in gold. But you don't have any A's yet. You don't have anybody yet. You're just getting started.
Yeah. Okay, well, that is helpful. So you're saying delay the grand opening until you've kind of met people, you've established some type of rapport, you're getting some patients coming in. Is that the idea?
Well, patients coming in, but also time for my next step. You don't want to start the grand opening until you have started visiting all the dentists in your area. So the first step was your branding campaign. The second step, identifying all the dentists in your area. The third step, do not hold your open house or grand opening the week you're opening, because nobody's coming. The fourth step is that you start visiting referring doctors. Put your ego away. There's not as much ego with young surgeons. It's when you hit somewhere around 45 years of age, surgeons get into this, I shouldn't have to do this mode. I'm embarrassed if I have to suck up to general dentists. I've heard that many times. They should refer to me because I am the best surgeon in the area. I've heard that many times. I'm not sure every surgeon in the area agrees with that, but none of that matters. It doesn't work. Get out there and start visiting. And don't be offended if they don't come out to meet you. Yes, personally, I'm a general dentist. I think it's incredibly rude not to greet a new specialist and make them feel welcome, even if you're not going to refer to them. Because we know they all have people they refer to. We have to take them away. So you get out there and you start visiting. And then you try to go to lunch or dinner with as many referring doctors as often as you can. But if they won't go, then you just keep visiting and you go through the database and then you go again and again. And whether it's food delivery, whether it's stopping by, whether it's sharing an article, you don't know at this point who you're going to catch, but you'll know as soon as someone gives you time. Your number one goal is, what's the next contact? In an established practice, if you had 25 referral sources and you touch your top people every 8 weeks and you touch your next level every 12 weeks, in addition to things I'm going to teach you, then that's fine. That's not fine here. You keep going until somebody says, and I'm kidding mostly, don't ever come back into my practice again. Take your you have nothing to lose. Take your ego off the table. Be nice to the front desk people. And by the way, those front desk people make you or break you. When you go in there, if they like you, they're going to go tell the dentist that you're there. When you go in there, if they don't know you, don't like you, they're probably going to say, "Oh, so I'm so sorry. The doctor is busy doing ABC," and leave the donuts. But you want to get out there as much as you can. This is inexpensive but powerful.
I like that. This might be maybe you're going to get to this, and I think we've talked about this too. But we were doing a podcast with Vic Martell, and he brought up the book Giftology on how to gift and being very specific. I mean, we've talked about this in the past, I know, but yeah, this seems like a very applicable time to be doing stuff like this.
Well, gifts are really important. In fact, there are cultures in the world where you don't show up to a business meeting without a gift. In the United States, we might call it a bribe. There, it's a gift, and it's expected, not looked down on. Cultures can be very different. General dentists and their staff love gifts. Now, the key is to be relevant. We must have 150 gifts on a list that we use for our clients. Because they're brownies, and then they're brownie trees, and then they're brownies with pecans and brownies with caramel. And, I'm just focused on just brownies. And when you get a tree of brownies that go into a general practice, the staff lights up. They love this because most general dentists aren't bringing them anything. They're not even buying them lunch periodically, unfortunately. So when you show up with great sugary treats, they love it. When you show up with t-shirts, they love it. When you show up with summer beach bags filled with some sunblock and this and that, they love it. This is great. And the dentists also participate, and they may not want to go to lunch. And if they don't go to lunch, you keep visiting. You just keep going. I promise you, follow this, you're going to get referrals. Now, you also need materials, Grant. We got to have some materials here. So first is what I call the formal intro letter. Grant, I, Roger Levin, oral surgeon. I'm not, but if I were, am opening on this day at this address and would love to see your patients. This is not where you make proclamations. You proclaim you'll do a great job for patients when you're talking to them. In the letter, you tell them your services, what you offer. And unless you've got some very unique philosophy, which I rarely see, this was a formal intro letter. You then send a bio letter. Well, who are you? Where'd you come from? How many years have you been practicing? Are you going to be able to help me with my implants? Are you going to be able to help me with the restorative side of my implants? What implants do you use, etc.? And then number 3 is the practice opening announcement. If you're building an office, which is not typically what we see, we start 6 months out and we have a card every month that goes from nothing to a blueprint to schematics to a partially built office. We're teasing them until the office is built and finished. So you have your opening announcement. They have to know that you're there. And then you add the next one is called the Now Seeing Patients announcement, letting them know you're fully open, ready to go, seeing patients, what your hours are, and that you'd be delighted to see their patients. So you need a package of materials that even in today's electronic digital world, people can still see, touch, and respond to.
And is this, I mean, how are you getting this to the practices? You're mailing it, you're emailing it, you're handing it personally. How does that work?
Well, you have two choices. No, you are not emailing it yet. We're not emailing. It's either mail or delivery. I prefer you going by. If you have any staff, they're not that busy, they can go by and dropping off beautiful envelopes with your logo on the outside, part of your branding package. And in it is a, short but very nice piece or card about your package. Again, it's a formal intro letter, 1, bio letter, 2, practice opening announcement, 3, now seeing patients, 4. We do these all the time and they're very well received. And they do start to generate referrals, which is really interesting because general dentists, some are very beholden to their surgeons, others are not. And that's a previous podcast, Grant. I encourage everybody to go back to the previous podcast. If you as a surgeon are not doing much in referral marketing, you're leaving yourself wide open for a young, energized, motivated surgeon to take them away. And since that's our topic today, then we're working on taking them away. It doesn't feel good to say that, but that's the reality. Everybody has to get their patients somewhere, and the better these young surgeons follow this protocol, the faster they're going to build up.
Okay. So what comes after the materials?
Okay. So you have to start touching referring doctors. So let me repeat what I said earlier, but now in order. You're now open. You want to visit practices regularly. You want to try to get to a meal. When you have a meal with someone, you change your relationship forever. Every time. Grant, you may have a good friend, but every time you get together and have a meal together, it's a slight change in the relationship, usually for the better. So invite them to lunch. Go to lunch every single day if you can. Leave that time open. If they won't go to lunch, then you keep in touch. 3 text messages every day. When I lectured at this DSO, I was told the next speaker, because I was leaving for the airport, got up and said, and he was a surgeon, he said, well, first of all, I want everyone to know, 450 doctors, I'm going to now send 3 text messages every day. So that must have resonated. As soon as you see a patient from any referring doctor, you send a text afterwards, thanking them, telling them the patient did great. You can't just send back patients and say to yourself, well, when they see how excellent my clinical skills are, they'll send me everything. It's logical and it doesn't work at all. So you need to be touching them regularly. If you've got anything of materials, drop them off at the office yourself. And by the way, quick note to the young surgeons, front desk people love seeing you. Grant, I bet you've walked into offices and the front desk person said, oh, it's great to put a face with a name, or Dr. Stucki, it's so great to see you again. Our patients love you. This is what you want to happen. And the more you're there, the more this is going to happen. So get together. We use happy hours if they won't go to lunch, dinners. Now, you're not ready for parties at this point. One-on-one is still better for a young practice or a startup practice than trying to group people together yet. You don't have that kind of marketing power just yet.
Yeah. What do you recommend for the dentist who's always too busy? They can't go to lunch. There's no time. I mean, where do you go with that?
Well, if you can't really talk to them and you get just a little bit of time, one of the things you can say, and honesty is so powerful. I'm sure you have someone you refer to, and I would never expect you to leave them. But I want you to know that I'm here. I will get your patients in if you contact us. If you can't get a patient into the practice you work with, if they're on vacation, if you have an emergency, if you have a problem. We are really good at something that surgeons resent. Surgeons resent cleaning up general dentist mistakes. And I don't blame them. I get it. Nobody wants to feel like, wow, you tried to do it yourself. You didn't bother to refer it to me. And now you made a mistake and you want me to clean it up. First of all, to all surgeons, general dentists learn by making mistakes. We've all done it. You make a mistake. That's how you learn. I don't think I want to do that kind of case again. But for the startup practice, the young surgeon, or it might not be a young surgeon, letting them know that you got a problem, I'm safe. You can send anything to me. I will protect you. I will take care of it. And the minute that happens, you've got an open door to, that doesn't build your relationship right there, but you got an open door to start working on it. But the main message is whatever you need, I'm here. I have a great desire to take care of you and your patients, extreme customer service, but you never have a problem if you contact our office. Now, you have to communicate that to your front desk, because if they don't live up to that, then it's almost worse than not saying it at all. So you have to have a front desk staff that will live up to that.
Yeah. And I recently read that book, Giftology. I don't know if this would help, but for those patients, dentists who are super difficult, one thing that has worked with me when I'm marketing is like if you can talk to the front desk and learn things about that dentist from the front desk, and then you send a tailored card or a gift, like on their, like the anniversary of their dog, right? It's birthday or something.
Yep.
That no one else would, that would kind of usually make them think, oh, wow, this person is really interested in me and values my time. And maybe there's a switch there.
Yeah, that's so coincidental that you brought that up. Monday this week, every Monday we have our national consultant Zoom training. And I gave a presentation on something called Levin Group's 46 questions to success, which is no longer 46 questions. It used to be. We've pared it down. But we actually have an incredible software that you use to build a knowledge base about referring doctors. And startups need to do this as well. What's their name? What's their spouse's name? Do they have kids? You know the kids' names. You were joking, I think, maybe about the pet, but I'm dead serious. Yeah, like me, my dog Winston goes to work with me every single day. A, if you don't like dogs, don't come in my office. And B, if you talk to me about Winston, my kids are in their mid-30s, so he's the child. You talk to me about Winston, we're going to have a relationship.
Right.
Amazon doesn't do it, but when UPS delivers here, because I joke that I have a loading dock outside my front door for all the packages, they leave dog biscuits on the package. So as soon as I have a driveway alarm, Grant, when that driveway alarm goes off, he races to the window and he knows a UPS truck and he starts barking because he wants to go out and get his dog biscuit. And of course, I love UPS because of that. So the point I'm getting at is build a knowledge base about referring doctors and review it. Don't go have lunch with a referring doctor without going over your base. Now, you don't try to answer all the questions at once. Years ago, when it was 46 questions, we had a client many years ago who actually mailed them out to referring doctors and asked them to fill it out. Kind of missed the point on that one. You try to learn something new every time you're with them. And the more personal you can get, the faster that relationship's going to develop. We start with dentistry, but we need to go into personal relationship very, very quickly. And if you can become their friend, you're going to get their referrals. Absolutely. So that's a great point you made.
Yeah, I like this point of touching your referring doctors, visiting with them through lunch or some personal one-on-one experience. What would be the next step you could do?
Train your team from day one. We almost never see this on referring doctor management. They're going to call your office, or their front desk is going to call your office, and you need scripts. We have this tip of the day that comes out every morning. You might get it, and it's free. Everybody, just go to our website, sign up for it, perfectly free. Comes out 5 days a week, and we had a tip that came out for surgeons recently with some scripting language. How do you say goodbye to a patient? Mrs. Jones, we're delighted that you selected our office. We really appreciate having you as a patient, and please let us know if there's anything else we can ever do for you. I mean, this is scripting. People don't talk that way. Some people go, oh, I can do that, but they don't. So train your team when you get a call from a referring office, because They're all equal right now. You don't have A's, B's, C's, and D's. Everybody's equal. You've got to treat them at the highest level of service. So you get a call, you jump, you answer the phone. Your job is figure out how to make it work for the caller. Right now, we don't know who's going to be an A. We don't know who's going to be a dog. We don't know the answer yet, but we have to treat everyone like they can be a superstar referral source because it's a startup. And by doing that, you'll get more superstar referral sources, but front desk people can kill relationships fast. And by the way, your front desk is the face of your office. They are the first person that a phone call from a referring office speaks to. They are the first person that a new patient speaks to. They are the first person that gets seen when a patient comes in the office. Your front desk person needs to be a Broadway level actor or actress.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I like that point about training them from day one. It's always harder if you've gone months to years with people who kind of maybe learned bad scripts and to try to switch it because they say, oh, what's the problem? This worked for me for years. Why wouldn't it work now? So if you can get them going from day one, I can see that.
That brings up something, and you and I talk about a lot of stuff on these podcasts. So this may not be directly germane to startup OMS practice marketing, but I want to share this with you because I actually wrote it'll come out sometime next March. I wrote one of my Saturday Pearls of the Week on this. So we got a call about 2 weeks ago from a surgeon. His practice is down 20%. And whatever the reasons are, he's having problems. And I was talking to him myself. And after speaking to him, I said, we can really help him. Now, everybody should understand on the podcast, I don't sell things. I am here to help people. I love to help people. I care about helping people. And maybe that's why we're here 41 years later. So please don't take this as some kind of sour grapes or we didn't get a client. We have lots of clients. So he was all excited. He understood what was going. He was sliding. There were problems. He said, I'll be back to you within 48 hours. And I'm thrilled because we want to help people. He called me back 48 hours later and said, I can't do it. Now, that's an interesting phrase. I can't do it. Either you can't afford it, which, okay, that's something. But when somebody's like, can't do it, that's different than I've decided not to do it. This isn't a good time. My spouse is sick. We've heard so many things in our 41 years. And again, we're very compassionate in the work we do. So I said, well, what's going on? Because he had seemed so excited, but I'm really thinking he needs help. This is serious. He said, my staff isn't bought in. I said, now I understood that statement. I said, well, what do you mean your staff isn't bought in? He goes, well, they don't want consulting. Now let's think about this. You got an owner, went through a residency, student loan debt. Although I didn't ask him about that. Let's assume student loan debt. Certainly money to open a practice. Was doing okay. Is down 20% because of competition. And his staff doesn't want to participate. Now, I feel badly for him. And again, I would, sort of bet he might be back in a year. And this is not because he didn't say yes. It's because I feel really badly for him because he didn't take control of the situation for his future. And then I started thinking, Grant, about people like you. Who are the best OMS practice owners that I know? Who are the highly successful? Of which there are a good number. And they would never allow someone to tell them, I won't participate. I'm not bought in, especially when things are going the wrong way. So my point in bringing this up is you need imagine what that staff is really like. If they're not even willing to learn and educate and improve, what do you think they're like on the phone? I don't know, but I'm not excited to find out. I would think they're not helping. So that was the point of the story. You need your front desk person to be a customer service representative. You need them to love referring offices. And I mean that. If you don't love referring offices, you should not be on that phone because that's who they're talking to first. That's the image. You can have a brand package, but in the end, it's the people. And if you are not helpful and bending over backwards and saying, scripting like, I'm so delighted you called us. We love working with your office. We will do everything we can for you. I mean, these are the over-the-top statements that in today's world, people love, absolutely love. Yeah.
For sure. Yeah. Okay. So you've touched your referring docs. You've trained your staff. They're really good at the intake of calls and patients. What other things would you do?
Okay. Again, inexpensive things. Capture information, put it into some kind of database or Excel spreadsheet. But whatever you learn in a contact with the referring doctor, you follow it with a text or email. Grant, there are many things you could say to me where I can come back and say, oh, good luck. Here's an example. I went to a fundraising gala last night. And I took a table and I had guests. So these are my guests. They should be thanking me, not me thanking them. But that's not how my brain works. So we had pictures, great AI. They said as soon as I got home, there were pictures that had been taken of us. Somehow the AI knew I'm Roger Levin, sent me Roger Levin in the pictures. And I'm with a lot of my guests. And I immediately at 11 o'clock last night sent them out to people and thanked them for coming because I really was delighted. We had a great evening. I was delighted they were there. That's follow up. Always, always, always look for the follow up. When you get your first referrals from a practice, within 48 hours, you send food, not gifts. You got to send something soft and fun. There's plenty of time for gifts and things along those lines. So capture information, track referrals, always, always, always follow up with everybody. Communication is the key. Now, number 11 is building your online presence. I am not a big fan of direct to consumer referral marketing for oral surgery. I have seen catastrophic failures. I mean, $300,000 failures where surgeons bought into some advertising situation that just didn't work out. And I'm always amazed when it's not working out, there's no other playbook. Like if we have a client, it's not very often that we have a client not doing well, but let's say it happens, and it does happen. We immediately look for new ways to do things because what's not working isn't working. Well, when you go down the social media road, it can be very, very difficult. So my point in that is build your reviews. Ask every patient for a review, either at the end of the visit or if there's going to be a follow-up visit, always do it then. And know how to ask. Ask them nicely. Did you have how was your visit? It was great. Would you do me a favor? Would you be nice enough to write a review? And give them a card on how to write a review. Even young people who know how to write reviews, handing them the card significantly increases your chances that they are going to write that review. So this isn't about social media marketing. It's about building your online presence. And by the way, it's easy and you don't have to spend a lot of money on it. So be careful with that. And then lastly, celebrate your referring practices. Know their birthdays. Send them a card. Send them a text. It's such a funny world. You might be a young surgeon in a startup, but your older surgeons aren't getting as many birthday wishes. The older you get, Grant, every year you'll notice you get less birthday. It could be a birthday. It could be an event. It could be, a football. In my world, I love NFL football. I love talking to people about it. I get text messages from clients every Sunday all over the country. Unfortunately, this year about how badly the Ravens are doing. We've gone from Super Bowl contender to hopefully we can win our second game this weekend. So, the reality is that you have to find out what they care about. If I know somebody likes football, I'm sending them an autographed football from the quarterback of their favorite team. And again, a lot of them are inexpensive. You don't spend a fortune. You're young, you're starting up. You're not young, you're starting up. Money's an object, but there's so many things you can do to create great experiences for people. And even education, lunch and learns are cheap. I show up in your office as scheduled, 22-minute laptop presentation. We have lunch. General dentists love that. You can even offer CE credits if you just contact your state board and they get a CE credit for that. They absolutely love that. And about 22 to 30 minutes, that's it. That's all the attention span people have today. But you look smart, you're educating, and now you're sitting in their office. You're like part of their team. It's a terrific feeling. So those are the startup lists. And then from there, you morph into a more mature referral marketing program. But but the first couple of years, this is how you make it happen. And it's amazing how well you can do. It really is.
Yeah. I love those points. I love that point about always following up. That's a great point. I mean, even with any interaction in your life, you have any positive interaction, to send a follow-up text,
Yeah.
a card. I mean, a handwritten card, like, blows people's minds today because no one does that.
Right.
We've talked about that in the past, but
Yeah.
yeah, I think anything like you're saying that shows a special care for the person, and their practice, and like,
Yep.
yeah.
And the other place to use a handwritten card is when you're delivering food. Just take a minute, write a nice note on the card, have everyone in your office sign it in different colored pens, and it will get noticed. People do notice those things. Yeah.
I don't know if you get this, but like, I'll get emails on my birthday from like mortgage companies from like 10 years ago when I bought a house, and it's like, happy birthday. We're here to help you get another mortgage. And
Well,
that's
I don't know if that's good, but we have a real estate broker here in Baltimore, very successful. You buy a house from her, and she's been doing this like, 35 years. You will get a gift on the anniversary of your house every single year. Well, I can only imagine, I don't know that when you go to sell your house, who you calling? When you go to buy another house, who you calling? When your kids need a house. In fact, I did that. I mean, I had a real estate broker who I liked very much. I trusted, I knew her. And when my kids started looking for houses, I said, You've got to work with Tanya, because I don't trust all brokers, I must say. But and I called her. I said, can you educate them? She was happy to educate them, show them around. And of course, they ended up buying a very nice home from her. And she did a great job. So, but these are people who keep in touch with you, that you hear from, that build relationships. As I've always said, Grant, anyone who can build relationships is going to be successful in any service business. Surgeons could be real estate brokers, and the ones that understand marketing would do well, would do very well. But the startup is different because we have to watch our costs. We need a lot of one-to-one activity. They don't know you. Don't assume they want to know you. Don't assume that when you show up, they're like, oh, thank God another surgeon has opened a practice in the area. You're just one more. And at first, you're not meaningful. You have to make yourself important. And one last thing you said, Grant, that's really powerful. Tell people what you want them to know. If the case went well, tell them the case went well. If you would love to do more implants with them, tell them this case went great. I would love to do more implants with you. Get rid of your ego, know that you're dependent, and treat your referring doctors as complete equals to you. If you get that mentality versus, well, I look down on them, but I need their referrals, that's going to come through. If you look at them as colleagues, and they are colleagues, they just don't have the skills of an oral surgeon, you're going to just relate to them so much better, so much more pure, and your attitude will come through. And I would say one last thing. Young surgeons, and this might not be as true for a startup of a 45 or 50-year-old, which you don't see quite as many of, they've got energy. They're young, and energy comes across as positive. People love positive people. If I've worked with the same surgeon for 10 years, I rarely get a call. I refer, I get the patient back, no big deal. I haven't seen you in 6 months. And I'll tell you a story about that in a minute. And somebody comes along with huge energy outflow and excitement. I mean, just think about podcasts. I don't know if you've ever had a guest, and you might have had a brilliant guest who could really teach something, but they come across in a very low key, introverted. Most surgeons are not that introverted, but when you talk like this, even if you're brilliant, people have more trouble paying attention versus, yeah, unfortunately, this is me. This energy is me. And it just relates better. And people believe you and like you. Or I shouldn't say they like you better. They're more attracted to you. It's almost like a magnetic force when you
Yes.
have energy. And I'll end with this story and then answer any questions you have. We have a client, general dentist. And by the way, surgeons hearing this story might think, oh, that's terrible. The GP's terrible. Guy's got two practices. He does about 3.6 million. He's a hard worker. He's a good dentist, runs good practices. And he went to an oral surgery four-doctor evening dinner put on by these four surgeons that he referred to. And he got there, and one of the surgeons was an associate. And he said to the associate, imagine this. What can I do to refer better to you all? And the associate just looked at him and goes, oh, you're doing fine. Just keep sending patients. No one touched him the rest of the evening. Now, this the thing you're not going to like, but it happens. This is just a real story. I didn't do it. He never sent another patient to that practice. He was so offended by his evening. So make sure if you're with referring doctors, you're paying attention. You're touching them. Oh, he was an A. He was an A referral source. Thank him. Know he's there. One of the things we teach if you're having an event, you have a list of every doctor coming. If you got partners, you split it up, but you go down that list and spend time with every single one of them. So that may have been an extreme reaction by a very nice general dentist, but it's still the reaction. So keep that in mind.
Yep. Yeah, and I second that whole concept of positive energy is so powerful.
Yeah.
My example is my younger brother recently graduated from oral surgery residency and is kind of working in my group with me, and he's so excited and positive about oral surgery. It gets me more positive about it. I've been doing it for 15 years, and sometimes I'll walk into work and think, another day, another tooth. And it's kind of like Eeyore. My brother will call me and say, I did an implant today. It was the greatest implant of my life. And it just makes me smile.
Did he open a startup?
No, he just joined our group and is helping.
Oh, okay. Because I was
grow the
saying we have to get this podcast to him right away, otherwise.
Yeah.
No, but we need to surround. There's an old saying, and it's not true, but I like it. Our success will be the sum total of the 5 people we spend the most time with, and you make sure you have energy, positive people around you. I mean, I can't say enough about the power of positivity. I believe it. I try to live it. I think I do live it. I feel bad for people that don't have it because it's just such a great way to live. And don't let the negative around you, the negative in the world, the naysayers of the world, do not listen to them. Do not let them turn you off.
Yes, for sure. Well, I love these points. I think all these have been very relevant. And I mean, I'd love too that most of these are pretty inexpensive things to do. So awesome for, young surgeons who maybe don't have a lot of initial cash to work with. So great principles. Thank you for sharing this.
Oh, Grant, it's always a pleasure. I'll look forward to next time.
Appreciate it. Have a good rest of your day. Thanks for
Okay.
Bye.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Everyday Oral Surgery. For more information on these podcasts, please visit everydayOralSurgery.com. I love feedback and would be very grateful if you would reach out to me via my email, grantstucki@gmail.com, and let me know what you thought of this episode. Or you can text me at 720-441-6059. Additionally, if you have any topics you'd like to hear about, or if you would like to be a guest on the podcast, please email or text me. I found many of my interviewees through people who have been contacting me and have been listening, and I've gotten so many great ideas for more podcasts, and that's what helps keep the podcast rolling. So I really appreciate you making that extra effort and helping me out with feedback and knowing what to do next on the podcast. Thank you so much.